we have our bedroom photo, and I've got my wide angle lens on, and I'm standing in the corner, and I was thinking, how do I compose this? Well, personally, I've shot a million bedrooms at 17 millimeters or 24 millimeters, and I think we could do a little bit to mix it up. Something I noticed earlier today was there was this really cool light coming down in the courtyard, maybe at 11 a.m. this morning, and I thought it would be cool then, rather than do a shot that focuses on the bedroom, I want to do a shot that shows the bedroom and how it connects to the courtyard. And this might necessarily not be turned into a bedroom when someone buys this place and moves in. Could be an office, could be any other kind of space they want it to make. So I'm going to try to get away with using a little bit more hard light and trying to transform this dead 4 p.m. light into something a little bit more interesting. So I'm over here with my 17 millimeter lens, and I'm going to do a test shot, and you'll see what I mean. How many times have we all done the classic bedroom shot, standing in a corner, shooting across? As you can see, this is wide, pretty boring, and like I said, everyone has done this 1,000 times. I'm going to tighten this up and try almost more of a detail photo that tries to bring the outside in. So I'm going to switch my lenses, start with a 24 millimeter tilt shift, and I'm going to add a 1.4 extender to it to effectively turn it into a 35 millimeter tilt shift lens. Okay, so here's the new composition with the 24 and 1.4 extender. Again, effectively that's a 35 millimeter tilt shift. There's a few quick things that I want to tidy up, like the pillows outside and some of the props on the inside, but other than that, this is looking a lot better, a lot more intimate, and it really shows, again, that connectivity between inside and outside, which is one of the best features of this home. So what we're going to do is we're going to finalize the styling, and then we're going to light this thing and get it wrapped up. If you could go out and kind of fluff up the pillows outside and make that look a little bit more well put together. Sure. Thanks. All right, so the photo is styled. All we had to do was clean up the exterior a little bit. Everything else looks really good to me. I'd like to try shooting this, possibly with the door open, to see if I can give this a bit of a more natural feel. But other than that, I think we're ready to start shooting. I've got my flash trigger on the camera here, and we're going to mount up our B10 and add some light outside. So I've stepped outside, and as you can see, the light out here is kind of, Earlier today, we had nice, brilliant sunshine coming from right about over there. So what I'm going to do, I've got my B10 on this tripod extended here, and we're going to hold it up and replicate that sun. We don't need too much reach because we're so far from where the light's going to hit that we're going to be able to hold this up here, and you're not going to be able to see it at all. So Colleen, I'm going to give you this. Now we're on full power, and I'm going to do a couple test shots here and see how she goes. All right, so I love the results from that first test shot. It's just a little bit hot. I'm going to have you turn that down from full power to maybe 9.0. Beautiful. All right, let's go back inside and finish this off. Okay, so now that we've got our light outside, all we've got to do is finish the inside. Everything is styled and pretty much ready to go. There's one little thing I want to iron out, and that is the position of that black framed door. As you can see, when I was flashing the outside scene, we got all these kind of crazy reflections in it. David is in the reflection, actually, so that's a little bit inconvenient. So I'm going to find the perfect angle for that, get it to sit there, and then I'm going to bracket so that I can put together the interior and the exterior of this photo. All right, so I'm just going to turn on live view with my Cam Ranger, and I'm going to adjust this. I've been using a book as a door stopper. A little bit of a breeze in here. And I'm going to adjust that so that you can still see behind into that ladder, which I think is a pretty cool piece of styling. Just like that. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go ahead and bracket and finish this shot. All right, so I've made a little bit of a mistake. I just caught it. Now, by adjusting the angle of that door, it actually shows part of the exterior in the shot that I'm supposed to be flashing. So right now, it looks pretty dead and dull. I'm gonna get that flash one more time and recreate that light and make sure that everything looks realistic and you can see the flash not only out the window, but in the reflection too. Ready. All right, perfect. As you can see, now I've got the flash in the reflection of the door as well as through the window. I don't even need to go back inside. I can just bracket from out here using the Cam Ranger. All right, so let's go put this together in post-production. Okay, so here we are back in Lightroom. Let's get this guy ready to go and edited. Now, by this point, I think you have a somewhat good overview of my general process. What I'm going to do here is a little bit different in that we are compositing an image of flash and ambient light. Again, I feel like without anything happening in the back here, this just feels so flat and boring. So what I'm going to do is choose my base exposure based on the interior exposure. I'm not going to worry so much about the exterior because I know I'm going to replace that in just a minute. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose this image as my interior exposure. Going to, again, pull the highlights down a little bit, pull the shadows up. My white balance is looking pretty good. I don't think we need to be plus 34. Warm it up a tad, and don't worry, I will correct that in Photoshop to get it closer to our other images. What I'm really worried about is this exterior shot. I'm gonna pull the shadows up on this somewhat significantly. I'm trying to recreate sunlight out that window. So I'm gonna warm that up a touch. We have some golden afternoon light in the rest of our images, and I want the same thing here. I think it needs to just be brighter, but I think that will do right about there. So I'm gonna take these two images, right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. Okay, here we are. So I'll go ahead and rename my layers flash and base. And similar to before, I'm going to be making a selection around this window so that I can cut in that sunlit view. And once I have this in place, I will go back to working on my color correction and all that fun stuff. Now, this is a bit of a trickier cutout here. So I am using the polygonal lasso. Just being careful to get right along that edge. If things get any more complicated than that, I'll probably jump over to the pen tool. But I think this can get us close enough. So I'm gonna select my flash layer and add my layer mask. And there we go. Now I have not got the window reflection. I'll do that also. Really quick, just write down these shapes. I don't know if I need that handle cut out. We'll see what happens. Go ahead and delete that so we get the same light here that we have there. And this is a little green, so I'll probably end up adjusting that to match that outdoor exposure. How's the handle look? The handle looks fine. Okay, looking good. So we've got the exterior and interior light pretty much where I want them. Let's do, ooh, did I forget to do this? You know, that is darker in the flash exposure. Let's see how that looks. This is also a window up here. Just cut that out really quickly. Not bad. I think it needs to be a little brighter, and I could have done a better job selecting it. There we go. Okay, so there's our exterior view, all cut in and ready to go. Let's go ahead and start doing a little color correction in here. There is some like weird blue going on. I think this reflection is too dark. I'm going to go ahead and Control or Command click on this layer mask thumbnail, and then go back down and add a curves adjustment layer. And that's going to load that curves layer with the same mask as the layer below it. And I'm going to brighten that up a little bit, and you'll see I like what happens to the reflection, but not this out here. So I'll take my brush and I'm just going to paint that out right there. I don't think that needs to be as bright as the rest. And that helps significantly. So now everything feels pretty accurate outside in terms of exposure and color. Let's go ahead and do our color correction. Like I said, there's a lot of green over here. I'm not totally in love with it. I do like, let's see. Let's go ahead. We'll start with white. Change the blend mode to color. Again, we have a black and white image here. We don't need that. I'm going to invert that layer mask, Command I, and with a brush at 30% opacity or so, start painting in some of that color correction in these. It's like a, see this gradient? It's like a red to white. I would prefer everything to have a more consistent but lower opacity saturation here. I'm not going to paint over the bed. I don't want to totally desaturate that. But I can turn that on and off, and you can see how I've sort of sucked out some of that inconsistent color. I will now add another solid color matte layer. And just like I did before, I'm going to warm this up a little bit. A very subtle warmth. Which looks great. And I want to do the same thing outside. So I'm going to reselect that flash layer and yet again add another solid color. Get that thing nice and warm. And change the blend mode to color. Maybe overlays the ticket here. Again, I'm trying to approximate late afternoon light. That's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and add a curves layer. I feel like I want to brighten this up a little bit overall. And I want to add some contrast because it is feeling a little bit flat. One more for, I'm going to group these together. You can select multiple layers and hit Command or Control G to group them. And one last layer for a little bit of contrast here. Okay, that's looking nice. I feel like we've desaturated this painting a little bit too much. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to pull out, yeah. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I feel like it's a little too bright outside. So I'm going to tame that a little bit. I'm going to reactivate that. I'm going to paint out some of this exposure adjustment on the exterior to bring back some detail there. And I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and get some of these pieces of sensor dust here. Command Alt Shift E to flatten out to a new layer. Get rid of that. I've been finding this very distracting, this leaf that's hanging over into the shot. So I'm gonna do my best to nix that. And I'm gonna go ahead and Command save. As always, I'm gonna add a little texture, a little clarity. As always, I'll do a little upright adjustment. I think this is very close, so I'm just gonna use the automatic vertical button here, and we are in business. I don't know if this needs a vignette or not. I think it's fine as it is, but I think that looks like a much more interesting shot than what we started with. Our very flat, very bland, sort of bluish, dark shadowy image to a bit more sunsetty, golden, warm light. I personally dig it, and I think it'll go great with the rest of our set. Let's go back on location and get our next shot.